Thanks so much to Lucy and Roberta, and congratulations on this amazing fair. I think we should give you a round of applause. I think with all the doom and gloom that goes around, to have this fair in Johannesburg at this time is just the most uplifting, wonderful, fabulous testament to the art economy. And art is always reflects the optimism of a nation. And so I think it is giving us something to feel optimistic about, and really very well done. But this morning, and well, this afternoon, it's my privilege to introduce my esteemed colleagues from Strauss and Company. We have three that are going to be on the panel this morning, and they're going to be talking to you about a toolbox for understanding how to build a collection. I'm going to start with our most senior person, which is Wilhelm van Rensburg. Wilhelm van Rensburg is our senior art specialist. He's also head curator at Strauss and Company, and he is in charge of our education program. He and his wife Alette previously ran an art gallery called Art on Paper, and he is in a fantastic position to explain to anybody, either wanting to start a new collection, how to build a collection, or for established collectors that maybe want to go in a different direction with their collection. So it's a great privilege to have you here this morning, Wilhelm. Thank you for your expertise. And then alongside him is Arisha Maharaj. Arisha has been with Strauss for a number of years now. She started as an intern. She has a master's degree from Wits University in History of Art, which also makes her very well placed to talk about art, to understand art, and she is very much an integral part of our team. She is an art specialist, which means that any of the artworks that come through Strauss that are offered for sale, she does her due diligence on each and every artwork that comes through, makes a decision, looks at the art estimates, advises the clients. She is an absolute pleasure, and it's been wonderful to watch her grow into the mature young woman she's become today. And above all that, she's an absolute pleasure to work with. And then last but not least, we have Richard Ndimande, and Richard is known in Strauss as Specs. And you can see why. And Specs has his fine art degree from UJ. He is also a practicing artist. And if any young people here are thinking of a career in art, Specs is an absolute wonderful example of somebody who works extremely hard. He works at Strauss all day as a cataloger. That means that the works that are brought in by Wilhelm and Arisha then get looked at by Specs and the cataloguing team. They go through each and every artwork that's ever offered for sale by Strauss and Company. They look at the medium, the condition, etc., and put that all together onto the internet so that when you, the buyer, look at it, you have a clear idea of what you're buying. But Specs also is an artist in his own right. And at the moment, I'm proud to say he has a solo exhibition on at the Rand Club. So anybody who would like to see Specs' artwork, go to the Rand Club, another fantastic venue in Johannesburg, something we can be proud of. I'd now like to hand over to our first speaker, that's Arisha Maharaj, who's going to talk to you about building a collection.
Thanks, Jackie. Okay, so a toolbox for understanding how to build a collection. So I guess starting with the obvious, you need to look. You need to look at art. So you need to train your eye, you need to train your eye in terms of what you like. And to look at art, you've got a number of places to look, starting with art fairs. So art fairs is a great place to start. It's sort of a one-stop shop to start training your eye. Latitudes here has sort of a candy store full of galleries for you to look at. It's a good way for you to see which galleries you like, what type of art you're leaning to. You can talk to a lot of people, and art fair is basically the best place to start building your collection, start building your eye, start seeing basically what you like. The next place is auction houses. So where art fairs have basically all the sort of current working artists, all the galleries, your auction houses handle a lot of artworks, especially with us, basically a lot of modern and contemporary art. So with an auction house, especially when we've got a live sale, you can basically come and see 100 to 200 artworks all in one space of a variety of artists. So you get from basically 18th, 19th century art all the way up to contemporary art. So it's also a nice one-stop shop to get basically a glimpse into 100 years of artworks in one space. With auctions, you also get, auctions are very different to an art fair, where an art fair is a lot more curated. You get all your galleries that come and show their sort of top artists. Auctions are based on what comes in for consignment. So you get basically a complete mix of works, and it's our job to basically curate it in a certain way to make certain conversations, to compare two works from maybe different eras. So it's quite a unique way of looking at art, and you also get to see works that you may never see. We always say when a work comes into an auction, it comes from somebody's private collection. It's shown on view for 1 week or 2 weeks, and then it gets bought and put into another collection, probably never to be seen again. So auctions are a very unique place to also see sort of a snapshot into South African history. Museums is also an amazing place to go look at art. You've got sites, you've got Norval. In Johannesburg, you've also got the University of Pretoria, Wits Art Museum. So definitely go to the museums, go see what's on show, go and see what's happening out there, especially in Johannesburg, in South Africa. I think we do need to go and basically be aware of what's out there. Artist studios. Tomorrow is actually a great day because there's an open studio across Joburg. So, for example, the Bag Factory and Spex's studio is going to be on view, and that's also a great way to basically see what the artists are producing and also to get a glimpse into their studios. Street art. Maboneng has an amazing cultural history there. There's a lot of street art to see. There are also tours that happen there, walking tours of Maboneng. I think there's also a bicycle tour. Just having a look at and being basically conscious of what's around you in terms of art. And finally is social media. Social media is a huge place for viewing art. Artists use social media as their portfolios. All artists have a page. That's where they display their work. It's an easy way to basically sit in bed and just see what's out there. Definitely use social media to your advantage because all artists are using social media to showcase their work. And it's basically a way to basically see all the art out there, both in South Africa and abroad. And you can basically get a whole glimpse of art from your phone. So definitely use social media to look at art. After looking, you then need to define. So you need to define, firstly, what you like. So train your eye and see. Here's a perfect example at an art fair. Go and train your eye to see, yes, you like this, maybe you don't like that. If you're liking more abstract art, more realistic art, look at the different eras, talk to the gallerists. Look at the artists, take note of the artists that you like. Also take note of the mediums. Do you like prints? Do you like works on paper? Do you like oil paintings? Do you like sculpture? So really be conscious about what you're seeing and make note of what you like. Also scale. Scale is very important because if you have an apartment, don't look at 3-meter paintings. So be conscious of the space you have, where to hang it. And also, most importantly, also be aware and define your budget. Look within, decide what is your price range that you're looking at. Once you have a budget, you can say, okay, maybe you're looking at prints, maybe you're looking at oil paintings, sculptures. And so really be conscious of what your budget is, what your scale is, what you've got the capacity to fit in your home, and basically just define those parameters for yourself. Next, which is very important, is actually just to talk about art. So ask for advice. At Strauss, we've got a whole team of specialists and catalogers. We've got Jackie in business development. We can talk about art all day. Good luck keeping us quiet. But we can talk nonstop. So if you need advice, if you want to know, just come talk. Also here at the art fair, talk to gallerists. Also talk to other collectors. It's also interesting to know what other people collect and ask, why are you interested in this? What reason are you collecting this? Just to get basically a different perspective. Also go to talks, go to lectures. The more you know, the more confident you'll be as a buyer. And then also talk to your friends and family. Say, I'm looking at this artwork, what do you think? You know, the more you talk about it, the more confident you'll feel, the more excited you'll be. And it's a nice way to also build a community around art. And most importantly is after you've defined your parameters, you know what you like, that's when you start your research. So start doing your research into the artist. So if you like a particular artist, research them a bit more, find out where they're from, where they're practicing, where's their studio, you know, or if you're buying a work from maybe the 20th century, there's, you know, buy a book on sort of Alexis Preller or Irma Stern, find out a bit more about who they are, what is their larger practice like, and then also look at in terms of the prices, where can you buy, you know, other artworks of this artist, who's stocking them, what galleries are. You can hear me, right? Okay. So, and there's also a number of online spaces to look at. You've got sort of ArtNet, you've got Mutual Art, you've got on the Strauss website, we've got every artist we've ever handled, all of the works we've handled, and the prices that they've sold for. So also just use what's out there online and look, make sure you're buying a work for a fair price. Also look at the provenance. So provenance is a very important factor in art. Provenance is the history of the artwork. So if you're buying something from the secondary market, then make sure you know where it comes from. Has it come from a private collection? Has it come from a noteworthy collection? Basically track down, you know, the provenance of the work. If you're buying it from a gallery, make sure to keep that invoice with you. And finally, how to care for your art. Caring for your art is also very important. If you're buying a work on paper, don't put it in direct sunlight. If you live in a very humid, like KZN, where it's got a lot of humidity, know what the impacts of that will be on your artwork. I think Specs is going to take you more in detail about how to care for your artwork, how to hang and how to curate your artwork. And then finally, once you've done all of that, it's then time to buy. And I think it's a journey, it's a process. Starting an art collection is very exciting. And you know, you'll always remember the first artwork you buy, and some artworks you might buy and regret, and other artworks you might have bought and it becomes your favorite artwork of the collection. So it is a very exciting journey. Always do your research and always mainly buy what you like. Okay, over to Specs.
When I speak about curating and taking care of your collection, once you have your collection, you might not know how to handle it or take care of it or even display it in your home. So I'm going to take you through that process. And I think the first step when you buy an artwork to take care of it is to ask the seller. So there are different kinds of works now with mixed media as well. You might not know how to display it or how to install it in your home. So the first step, it's working. So the first step is to ask the seller, whether it's the artist, the gallerist, or what have you. So the artist might tell you that I'm selling this banana, but you mustn't eat it, or you must tape it on the wall, so the first thing is ask the seller. Here. And then the next step, when you buy a work that's a bit older than recent works that you might find in an auction house, you might need a conservator to help you with preserving it and taking care of it. And this is one example. And Arisha mentioned that you should take care of your work, and you shouldn't, if it's work on paper, you shouldn't put it on direct sunlight. And if it's a painting, it can last a lifetime if you take good care of it. Like this one is a bad example of the one that wasn't taken good care of it. So it was in a cafe shop, and it was hung above a stove where they were cooking, and it catch the smoke and the smoke from the cooking, and it got heavily, like it had a surface dirt. So after it was cleaned, this is what it looked like. So don't try to, when you get a dirty work, don't try to put ND or bleach. Get a conservator to clean it properly for you. And another thing, another point with paintings, it must be in like good room temperature, like 70 degrees. And if it's a work on paper, it must be framed in archival materials. And if you can, it is a bit expensive, but if you can frame it in a UV museum glass, that it actually protects it, and the archival material without acid help it to last longer. Once you know how to take care of your work, you might also need to know how to hang your work and curate it in your home. And I have ways of curating your collection. And the first one can be a theme. So establishing a theme for yourself that might be about your own personality. You can choose a theme based on a medium. You can choose a theme based on subject matter, like if it's a landscape, you can have a room. And also you must choose the mood you want to set in a specific room in your house, and curate it according to that. So you might choose a theme for a particular room, for a particular mood that you wanted that you want to feel. Next step is coordinate the work with the furniture. It's good to place some work with some furniture, because some furniture pieces might fight the work and others work with other furniture pieces. The other important one is to choose the right colors for your walls. Now, at Strauss, if you've been to Strauss, every time you walk in, it's a different color. Every week you might come, and then the following week you might find a different color. Because when we curate our shows, we hang everything and we look how the works are, and then we choose the right color to complement the paintings. Because a work can be lost in a color that might fight the work, or it might, fight the work. But then if you choose the right colors, it might complement the paintings, and it might make them pop. So yeah, the color of your walls are not more important than the paintings that you hang on there. So yeah. And the last point is to rotate your collection. So if you buy a piece and you find that you already hung or curated your collection already, and there's a piece that might not communicate with the one that you already have, it's okay to take it down and then rotate it and create a dialogue. When you have like visitors, it's also important to have like a conversation around your works, and they must communicate. When you go to sleep and you turn off the lights, like in the night at the museum, you want to have your works having a good conversation rather than arguing with each other. So yeah, thank you. That's it.
Thanks, Richard. So Arisha mentioned that one would never forget the very first artwork that you've bought, and I thought that is what I'm going to do today. I'm going to show you the very first artwork I ever bought in my entire life. I'm taking you back to 1978, long before most of you were in this room were born. This is a Cecil Scottness work, incised wood panel. I bought it at that stage, Sotheby's, South Africa. Stefan Welz had the franchise before he became Stefan Welz, and much later became the founder member, one of the founder members of Strauss and Company. He ran Sotheby's, South Africa, from Total House in Bloemfontein between Wolmerams and Smith Street. It happened to be on the road to the bus stop. I caught the bus to the UJ campus, University of Campus, and one day I just happened to pop in there. The work was hanging among mostly very traditional landscapes, and of course nobody wanted this. I didn't even attend the auction, I just placed the commission bid, and I got a telephone call to say, you are now the proud owner, but you owe us 180 Rand. Okay. This is what I paid for this work. A lot of money for 1978. You have to remember, I was a student. My father gave me pocket money, and he said, this is for the whole year, 600 Rand. Don't ask for more. So for 4 months, we were basically out of pocket. But what did Alette and I do, my wife and I? We went to art exhibition openings. And they were lavishly catered events with a lot of food. And so that's how we survived for those 4 months. Today, you would value this probably at about 120 to 150,000 rand. And of course, we'll never sell it. I have to admit that I think I was at a bit of an advantage because art history was one of my subjects. I had a Dutch professor. He was hell-bent on teaching us South African art history. At that stage, most universities taught conceptual art. They couldn't be bothered with history of South African art. So I knew about the artists. I knew what I was looking at. You know, Arisha emphasized the fact that one should one should train one's eye. So that's exactly what I did. Incidentally, our child, when he was sort of like getting into his teenage years, he looked at this and he looked at my wife and I and he said, "You parents are supposed to protect me against stuff like this." So, also, in addition to this, do your research. That is another thing that Arisha mentioned. And I also happened to, my other major was English literature, and one of my lecturers was Stephen Gray. And Stephen Gray, a poet in his own right, but also a collaborator with Cecil Scottness. And the two of them went on to publish numerous portfolios. Here's one of them, the very first one that the two of them collaborated on was the assassination of Shaka Zulu, a portfolio of 53 woodcut prints. And one tip for collectors, whenever you buy a portfolio, never ever split it up. Always keep it together, always keep it in the original folder. And as Richard mentioned, look after them. This was 1973. So Stephen Gray would recite his poetry in the English lectures. Stephen and I became good friends subsequently. And much later on, just before his death, Alette and I sold his art collection at Art on Paper. This is another image of the assassination of Shaka. They went on to do the White Monday disaster portfolio in 1974, telling the story of Volraad Woltemade rescuing passengers from a shipwreck in Table Bay. 1975, this is Baudelaire's Voyage. Again, Stephen wrote the poetry, Cecil Scottness did the incisions and printed the woodcuts. Beautiful, beautiful images here. 1976, this is called 10 Landscapes. These are all images from previous auctions. We sell these portfolios fairly often, but very beautiful works that you see here. And this is the last collaboration between the two of them. It was published in 1979, although they worked 5 years on this particular one. Here's another image from that portfolio. Okay, that was 1975. 1980, my second purchase. This is a William Kentridge etching. It is from his famous domestic scenes portfolio. And this was exhibited at the Market Theatre Gallery. Some of you might know the Market Theatre, very vibrant in the late 1970s, early 80s, staging what was known as agitprop theatre, agitational propaganda theatre, and we were often there, and the gallery soon opened its doors as well. This happened to be Kentridge's very first exhibition, 1980, where he exhibited a series of the domestic scenes. The domestic scenes also a type of, if you like, resistance art, because he was commenting on the complacency of the bourgeoisie, the middle class, in this particular image, you know, being weighted on head and foot, literally. Okay, so there is a little close-up. Sometimes he would print, he would put together a couple of plates. There were 16 images in the series, and sometimes he would put them together and print them on one particular sheet that you can see there. The interesting story is that nobody knew William Kentridge in 1980. So he asked his framer, please round up all your mates and ask them to come to the exhibition and buy my stuff, which I did, for a royal 30 rand. Okay, and today we value this particular series, the individual prints, for between anything 30 and 50,000 rand. It went on to, some of you might know that at the moment the catalogue raisonné of Kentridge Prints is underway. The teaser, they call it, was in fact the domestic scenes, a whole publication on that. And what you see here are the 16 images, different images used for the cover. And when I had to choose my copy, obviously it was an obvious choice to do this particular one. And here at the back of that publication is a photograph of the time. The very young William there, he was living at that stage at the Junction Avenue in Parktown. And at the back you can see the proofs of the domestic scene. So a really, really very nice collection. The first volume, the one that I've just shown you, is just the prelude to the catalogue raisonné, the first volume of the catalogue. I think downstairs at Goodman Gallery, I saw the other night, they have a couple of copies if you want to buy that. Then in 1981, that is when I completed one of the 5 honours degrees that I have on Emerson. And my parents gave me 1,000 rand, and this is what I bought. Felter pen sketch by Emerson. It is a harvest scene, quite late, 1962. She died in 1966. And I really like that very much because it reminded me of quite an iconic work of hers in Iziko, South African National Gallery. And many years later, in 2003, when I curated a retrospective of Irma Stern exhibition for Standard Bank Gallery in 2003, this was one of the works that I included. So in a sense, it is almost like a working drawing, a sketch for this particular work. Okay, 1983, Christo Kutsia. So also one of my favorites, and I bought this particular work at the retrospective exhibition at the Pretoria Art Museum. I'm just showing you the cover of the catalogue there, and this work was there. Everybody was horrified, but there you go. And just to explain to you what you're looking at, it is a reworked, reassembled work of his. Now, in 1975, January 1975, exhibition in Cape Town, he actually took a blade and slashed all his works. All the works were on exhibition at the AVA Gallery in Church Street in Cape Town, and he slashed them all. Everybody was horrified. It was quite sensational, a lot of press coverage. I think that is what he wanted. But then they said to him, okay, sir, you need to explain to us why on earth did you do that? And his answer was, oh, it was just a Gitai performance. Now, some of you might know Gitai. It was a group of avant-garde post-World War II Japanese artists, and they worked in a completely different way, completely different engagement with the art medium. And Christo Kutsia happened to study with them in 1959, 1960, and he came back with all sorts of ideas. And he said, I was doing nothing else what Saburo Murakami did. And what did he do? He covered sort of wooden frames with brown paper, and he ran through them and pierced his body through them, and each frame would then become the artwork. And I said, that's what I was doing. And you don't have to worry, I will reassemble everything for us. And that is how that gave birth to a work like this. And you can see the very dramatic, aggressive slush marks. When you look carefully, it is collaged. He put up little bits and pieces all around it. It's a very large-scale work, 1.5 meter by 1.5 meter. You know, at that stage, 1983, I think we paid something like 5,000 rand for it. I had to pay him off every month. I had to write a check to number 27 Church Street in Tulbach, where he was staying at that stage. Okay. And I, of course, included the work when I was asked again to do a retrospective. this time of Christo Coetzee work in 2018. I included this work, and I'm just showing the cover of that particular cover. Okay, the last work I want to speak about are these 5 drawings. They're ink drawings by Cicely Sash, and that I got in the late 1980s, also from Stefan, but then he was operating as Stefan Belts and Company. They were unframed. They were lying discarded in a corner of the showroom, and I snapped them up for the royal sum of 40 Rand. Okay, so, and I had them beautifully framed. They are images of scissor beak birds with the targets on their back. You can see some of the images there. Very beautiful, very exquisite, very delicate works. That, of course, you know, those of you who know her and her life would know that the bird is a theme that she often addresses in her work. This is a more fully worked drawing, and many large-scale paintings where you can clearly see the scissor beak birds with the targets on their backs. Here's another one. Even her early work like these, she devoted to the bird. Right, those were my 5 purchases, so to speak. Right, and then Arisha gave you the toolbox. Here's another book. I firmly believe in self-help, you know, so if you've forgotten what all of us are saying today, buy this book. The Art of Buying Art, How to Evaluate and Buy Art Like a Professional Collector. There you are. And just the contents page, I'm sure you can't read, but basically what Arisha was giving you there as well. And I thought, lastly, to end on my recommendations at the fair. I walked through the fair the other night, and these are my picks. Okay, so this is from Kalishnikov Gallery, Lucy Jane Turpin. Fantastic work, abstract work. I like them simply because Lucy often goes to North Africa on artist residencies, and she engages with the local community, with Moroccan carpet weavers, and that is where she gets the beautiful sense of color. And I think the last time she was there, she actually provided them with some of her own paintings, and they wove all of that. So it's really, really fascinating stuff that you're looking at. Then right underneath us, you have Urbanski, and they are quite large-scale works, but very impressive and very commanding works, very colorful. Then one of my absolute favorites, Chloe Reed from the Atelier at 44 Stanley. I like the idea of the grit, you know, as you can see, we display the Cicely Sash drawings in a nice grit, so that's why I really took to this one. Daniela Moodley, also from the Atelier. The rich colors there, it is a type of landscape if you like, but otherwise you don't necessarily have to see anything figurative in it. Then Lady Sibande, this is a monoprint. I think you and I know her as an artist using photography. She also cast them in bronze. These images, what you're looking at there is really outstretched arms of one of her alter egos. She invents a number of alter egos for herself, I think to date about 20, casting herself as a domestic worker, as a priestess, as a fortune teller, or fortuna in this particular sense, with a deck of cards. This is from Gutman, Meshach Savambu, and the last one is Kutsanai, also from Gutman. But I think there is one other work that I want to talk about, and that is the one right at the end there. I was very taken with the technique there. It is so technologically advanced that I can't possibly talk about it, but I'm going to ask KK to tell us what on earth are we looking at. That's a magnificent artwork that you see there at the end. Very striking, very technologically advanced.
Dumelang Lekai. Can everyone hear me? All right, excellent. My name is Kokona Ribane, known as KK Ribane. I'm currently representing the first NFT physical gallery in South Africa, or in Africa. So the piece you are looking at is from Seth Pimentel, known as African Ginger, who is a phenomenal multidisciplinary artist who started as an illustrator and for the longest time has never been able to exhibit his work in his illustration in digital. So we are a fine art NFT gallery, right? So what is NFT? Many of you ask. It is a digital certificate of ownership, right? For the longest time, there hasn't been a platform that can verify originality, authenticity within the blockchain. So this is art that has royalty, provenance, and transparency. And that is why we call ourselves Usurper. That's the gallery, is to dethrone old ways of how we see digital art. And now it's a beautiful way we've experienced digital art in its finest. We have collaborated with Samsung, powered by Samsung, and in this medium, you're able to travel with your art. So anywhere in the world where there's a Samsung Frame TV and there's the Nifty app, you're able to purchase your art or display it anywhere. So we're all curators in our own rights in our home because our home is our museums. And now you have the ability to interchange your art at any given form and anywhere in the world. So what does it do for the ecosystem, for the digital artist, or many who want to venture in this new journey, is that there is royalties for that. So in any purchase or repurchase from that, the artist gets money in perpetuity. They get royalties, a percentage in perpetuity. So this is empowering the artist, igniting a new African optimism. And for us, we find it to be very infinite possibilities of what innovation can do. So when we talk about innovation in this fine medium, we're looking at art that can evolve and change due to the concept of the artist. So if the artist is conceptually thinking, after a lifetime or 5 years, I want the art to grow hair or close its eyes, which becomes a totally different art piece to how you actually engage with it from its first time you've actually met the art piece. So when we look at innovation and African narrative, this is the first time we get to actually see where it can expand to in any space you're in. And I think for us, we've just touched the tip of the iceberg, and most of the artists are excited to finally have a home that has innovation, a home that can speak the African optimistic nature of innovation. And that's a piece from African Ginger. We do have a physical space on Oxford Road. Do come, let's share and see these artists, engage with them, and also expand the African narrative of optimism. Thank you.
Thank you very much.